Hey y'all, welcome to another TurfZoom brought to you by our friends at the Aquatrolls Company. Today, we're going down south. We're going to Dallas, Texas. Well, no, actually Fort Worth, Texas,
Amen.
to
Fort
talk to
Worth.
my friend Joe Livingston from River Crest Country Club. Joe, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great. I couldn't be any more blessed if I had written it myself, but
Really? Not, you couldn't be more blessed? Really?
uh possibly, but I'll
I
take
like
what I've got. Yeah.
I like it. Well, we'll get into why you're blessed here in a minute. But thank you so much for joining us. I think our paths have crossed a few times along the way over the course of 40 years of doing this.
Right.
But I'm excited to get a chance to talk to you and get a chance to share some of your experiences with our thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers, something
Wonderful.
like that.
I like
So,
that.
so do you remember when we first met in person? Do you remember the opportunity that we had to meet way back when? I think it was 1991.
1993.
Three. Tell me your version of how you and I met.
So in 1993, I received the GCS AA Mendenhall Award.
Correct. Named after Chet Mendenhall, who'd been a president of GCSA and was a great leader.
Yep. I believe I was the second or first.
You were it.
Wow. I mean, that's humbling in itself. Just because you convinced me to read the history on Chet, and for any of y'all that don't know, I would read that. Some of the pioneers that started our association, and great guy, but humbled to do that. And in return, they flew us to the national convention, which at that time was in San Francisco, and I showed up, packed the only suit I have, and I believe you, Pat, you were organizing all the scholars and running all kinds of stuff at the convention, I'm sure. But
Right.
you got us together, in an evening before all this show started, and we were handing out GCM magazines, and
Yeah.
we probably smoked a couple cigarettes, and
We may have. Yeah.
and you and I just hit it off because
Yeah.
obviously your personality matches mine really well, and it was great to have you as a mentor. So we had a good week, and you know, um, being a young college kid, I'd been in the business for my dad, and
Right.
working at country clubs for a long time, and it was just it was interesting. I had long hair at the time, and
Right.
I've always been a rock and roll drummer, and
Little earring. There was a little earring, I
yeah, I
think.
don't, yeah, maybe. I doubt I brought that, but
So let me interrupt you because here's the version of this that I remember. Yeah, it was San Francisco. Jerry Fauble was the
yeah,
chairman of the Scholarship and Research Committee. He took everybody out to a very nice dinner,
yeah,
very expensive dinner. And at the end of the dinner, he pulls me aside and says, "I don't know about this kid with the long hair."
yeah.
And,
You
and
know, part of that was them, their faces wondering. And I've got Rick Tegmeyer, I believe, was
yep,
involved in it. He's always been
yep,
involved. He's an Iowa guy, and
yep.
I was going to Iowa State, and I've gotten to know all those guys still to this day. Rick and I are friends from that, and
Yep.
convincing them that they want to give these things to people who are going to stay in the industry.
Right.
And here I am, and they know it. But back then, I don't think it's that way anymore.
I
To
don't
where they're
know.
like, but um, they're wondering if you're going to be in the industry. Well, I mean, here I am, and it's a tribute to being fortunate enough to have my health and have a career. And
I kind of remember that Keith Happ, who stayed
yeah,
on and made huge contributions, was part of your group.
yeah, yeah,
But lots of folks benefited from that scholarship program, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that. I also remember that I hazed y'all and that
Yeah,
I made you, it
we
was
worked
like,
our butts off.
yeah,
Yeah,
I was like, see those boxes of magazines?
yeah,
Carry them over there. Okay, now carry them back.
yeah,
It's like I was
yeah,
a frat boy in college. I hazed people, so I remember that real well. But I also remembered how genuine you were about your commitment to doing this in the industry at large. How
yeah.
you did, in fact, learn about Chet Mendenhall, who most people would not know. Chet
Right.
Mendenhall was full-blood Cherokee Indian.
Absolutely.
He had a different lineage than virtually any president in the past in the history of the association. And so not only did he contribute mightily and become president of the association, he did it against all odds. It's
Yeah,
pretty
for sure.
amazing. So yeah, I thought you were a good representative of that. But you said something earlier that's important. So you grew up in a golf environment
Yeah.
up there in South Dakota. Tell us about your dad and about learning about being a golf course superintendent as a kid.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town of Elk Point, South Dakota, and Dad was he is my mentor. He died in 2002, but he, the man took up golf at 40, and there's nothing. I mean, he got drafted by the Reds to play pro baseball. Did not have the money back in his day. You had to pay to go to camps. It was not a free ride.
Yeah.
Um, but he was that talented at everything. Um, so he takes up golf late in life. He was a welder by trade, had a great welding business there, and then had a heart attack, and the welding was over,
Mm.
and they needed a golf course superintendent. And he fell in love with golf and was a great golfer, and he's like, I can do that. And he just did it. He just jumped in and did it. But that was the story of his whole life. And so from there, he went to work with Steve Schnell, who
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows Steve, but Steve from Okoboji, and
Yeah.
one of the best superintendents I've ever worked for in my life. And Dad was his assistant, and I worked for Steve for almost my entire high school career. And that man is just, I can't speak enough about Steve Schnell. I don't know what he.
Was he at the Elms? Was he at that golf course in Okoboji?
Uh,
I think it's the only golf course in Okoboji.
I think they own him now.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe.
the deal with Steve is Steve would take the golf pro out to play golf and just whip him mercilessly, and to where the pro at the club at the time just quit playing golf with him. That's how good he was. And he, he just he epitomized. He was he would get to work in the morning, have his work clothes on, come out and just, I mean, he was a golfer. So his greens were fabulous.
Yeah.
He was like, "What are you doing, Joe?" And I'm like, "I'm triple cutting approaches this morning." Okay. Wow, cool. Like I just did it. And I would just do that. I was in love with creating aesthetics type thing.
Yeah.
And he just let us go. And we did that kind of thing. And he had his coat and tie hanging in the office. And when he would go up for lunch to grab lunch, it was coat and tie went on. He would grab lunch, work clothes come back on. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I mean, what a leader just by his actions. It was great.
Yeah. Small town does not mean small time.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes
Yeah.
big timers come from small places. The other thing that you story you told me that I repeat a lot because I think it's so illuminating about this industry is tell me about the time that you went on rounds with the Toro guy.
Yeah. So Jerry Dinas, if any of y'all in the Midwest, you're gonna know him. Jerry Dinas was a very tall Italian man that we were we were a crew of a lot of Iowa beef producer working people in the wintertime, right?
Mhm.
I was a kid, so I was just going to school. But these men worked at IBP and then
Yep.
came back every season. Yep.
Packing plants and beef processing. Yep.
Yep. And man, were they good. Like that crew, I would take every one of them right now. Um, and you're talking, late 30s, 40-year-old guys
Yeah.
that were just stellar. Where Jerry, Steve is like I'm like him right now. Like my relationships, I have my guys I deal with.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give an ad here, but I'm a
But
Toro.
but go back because you were working for your dad, but you were a kid, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you were just
And
and
Jerry would show up once a week with donuts, like unbelievably on a schedule of just, I'm just here to check in with you guys. Anything y'all need. I mean, that kind of sales representation was just, I mean, I, if it doesn't say Toro on it, I won't even
right.
entertain it.
But he took you around. You went on rounds with him
Oh
and
yeah, he would take me. The other thing was, and this is speaking out of turn, I can't remember his name, and it's a travesty. Carlos. I mean, there was a Scots guy.
Carlos Stimson.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was a staple. Like show
Yeah.
up just to talk and teach and yeah, that's where I learned. Like you build a relationship here. They if Steve needed something, it was there
Yeah.
because they
It,
loved him.
and then this in the story, the I always try to read stuff into what happened, but to me, what that story suggests is how important it is if you in this industry to have relationships, right?
Oh
Even if
yeah,
it's a relationship with a 13-year-old son of a decent customer for the Toro
absolutely,
company, to this day, you're buying red equipment.
absolutely.
That's great.
And to this day, those guys remember me. And
Yeah,
why? There's no reason to, other
yeah.
than they're like, yep, and I'm probably in the industry because of those guys. And
Yeah.
then, um, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought there,
That's okay.
but
Take a step forward. Here you are now. How many years at River Crest?
25.
25 years, a
And
quarter
then you got to add
century.
on two when I was the assistant here in 90, right after I graduated. So
Man, it
27.
it just doesn't happen that much anymore.
Mm-mm.
The tenure's gotten better. I think it's up around 12, 13 years average tenure in a job these days, but
Yeah.
20 plus is
I'm on
still
my
a thing.
23rd club president
Yeah.
and my 25th Greens Committee chairman, and a new GM is coming in sometime soon.
Okay, cool. But so how have you evolved as the job and the industry and the club and Texas and everything has evolved? How have you tried to evolve and continue to be what you are? Because I've been to your club and your members
Yes.
love you. You know,
Thank you.
they respect you. They listen to what you have to say. I famously wrote a column about this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But how have you evolved to stay with it and not have it overcome you?
I had this conversation with a gentleman, and yeah, right now we are at a very changing point here. It's a 115-year-old club, and
Right.
I had to check myself. And and this is, um, anyone can take it for what it's worth. Things are real political right now, and
Mhm.
I'm the longest tenured person here at the club. Um, and I care about the club. If they want to send me home tomorrow, I will go home and wish them well and realize that I did all I could do to set this place up for, and I truly mean that. I truly mean that. Um, so I'm trying to, there's a couple factions here. We right now are in the middle of talking about renovating everything that's fallen down. And if you're going to do that from the golf standpoint, you've been to my club. It's a 90-acre property that's landlocked,
It's
completely
tiny.
landlocked.
Yeah,
To
right.
get better golf out of this, everything that is in its current position on this campus, which you've been to my maintenance, you've been to, needs to be thought that it does not need to be where it's at.
Yeah,
And
right.
then golf can be better, right? Well, that is a political battle in
Sure.
itself. And so I'm in these conversations with lots of behind the scene. Every club like this has the current elected board and the current elected guys. Um, when you're smart, you realize that there's guys behind the scenes that are still running things, even though they're not currently elected. And these guys have been with me for a long time. So
So number one, understand the authority behind the authority.
yes,
Okay.
and every place has that. Am I right, Pat?
Yeah, for 100%.
Okay. Okay. And to wrap this into what my initial point what is, I finally sat back the other day and I'm running to this. I'm on the new GM candidate interviews, you know what I mean? And I'm just
Yeah,
like, you know me, I can't hold back an opinion to save my life. And I'm like, hey, I care about where you're going with this place. I realize you have very busy lives, all of you that have been members here for 40 years. Um, I wouldn't expect any of you to have time to think about what the potential roadblocks and hazards you're about to come across are. So you it's up to me on a conscience level to bring those up to you. You've got some serious stuff going on here. But then I had to rethink this the other day. I was getting all, I mean, I was meeting after meeting. Thank God I have a great staff. And I thought, you know, Joe, what has been the key to your tenure? You never used to get involved in any of this, and you kept your head down, and you said, if I do the greatest job I can do agronomically here and ethically, everything else will take care of itself. And I went, you're kind of stretching outside that now and approaching this not able to just go, hey, give them the advice they need and they can take it or leave it, and
right,
keep your head down and keep going.
right.
And I need to keep reminding myself of that, because that will be the longevity from here on out, I think.
It's hard. It's hard not to feel like, hey, I've been here longer than everybody else. They should value my opinion more than anybody else. But that's just not the way it
And
is.
I never used to care, Pat,
Yeah,
right?
right,
I was
right,
like, I'm here to do a job and do it to the best of your ability, and it's worked well. But you know, I'm older, and they trust me, and so there is a responsibility.
right,
And and so I speak with who needs to be spoken to, and I go, I'd like you to think about this
right,
and then move on.
right.
And I hope I'm gonna be able to do that. Yeah.
One of my favorite all times columns that I wrote came from getting a
Yep.
note from you, and,
Yep.
and you said, ask me
Debbie.
about we're not that kind of club.
Yep.
And so, so you told me the story about it. So tell me how you would use that kind of weapon.
Yeah. So that came about. I was sitting in a golf committee meeting, and we were talking about, we weren't, I'm just sitting there listening to the entire committee going around and around about, oh, I'm trying to remember the
Here's
exact
how
detail,
Colonial does it, or here's
or
how.
just random, you know, we need to have, you know, to go orders with build a wooden box out in front of the club and have everyone drive by. And I'm just like, I wrote down that note to you, like, we're not, and they finally came around and they're like, so what do you think? And I said, you know, we're not that. Everything you just talked about for an hour is not why you're here. If I'm wrong, tell me. Did you join for any of that? Or
Did you
did you
join for hot
join?
dogs at the turn?
Yeah,
No.
from the culture of you are family when you show up here. You've included all of us, fortunately, as part of your family, and you treat us like family, we treat you like family, and your worries go away when you pull up.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we want. And I say, well, that's what you have.
Yeah.
But we're not that kind of club of being everybody else, because you
Yeah.
wouldn't be here if we were everybody else. Oh yeah,
You
that makes total sense.
you reminded them what the culture was, and that's
Yeah,
what was so important about that. Was sometimes it's easy to get, and particularly in these days with social media and all of the focus on architecture
yeah,
and remodeling and the you can get news about golf 100,000 places now, and so it's pretty easy to get wrapped up in that stuff. But it's important to have somebody, and I think anybody who's listening to this should take this to heart, somebody who will say, but that's not really what we are.
right. And by the way, if this is a great club, you've been here.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You were here. We had just discovered a deceased body uh,
Yeah. Okay, next story.
on the golf course, and it was an unfortunate situation where
It
somebody,
was.
just was elderly and ended up driving where they. It was tragic, but
Yeah.
um, the history, man, there's so much history here,
Yeah, there is.
and it revolves around.
It's the history of Texas in a lot of ways.
If anyone has watched Landman,
Yeah.
we're Monty, and I think I can say this name because I know I knew Charlie well and whatever, but Monty is Monty Moncrief,
Yeah.
who was a very prominent member of this club, who started Montex Oil, and in the show it's MTex Oil. This is
Yeah.
the story, guys, of his
Yeah.
life
Right.
that was here. He's and
This
that's
is this
cool,
is one of the rarest of times when I'm watching TV and I'm looking at this, and wasn't even really particularly interested in the show. It's
right?
Landman. It was on
Right.
Netflix or will be on Netflix
Yeah.
again. And I'm watching along and I'm like, that's River Crest.
Yeah.
It was just like, holy crap. Because obviously it's set in Dallas and Fort Worth, but I look up and there's my pal John Hamm
Yeah.
playing golf at your
Hey,
golf
Monty.
course.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind. And it probably not something that a lot of clubs would have embraced, but you guys did because you wanted people to know who you are and you had
Well,
member connections. And
this was part of his life on a daily basis,
yeah,
and the entire
great.
family. I mean, to this day,
Great.
you've got it's that history is cool, and that history needs to be embraced,
Yeah.
and the younger generations are coming up, and they're great in their own way. Um, but no one's coming here because we're hosting a Ryder Cup anytime soon, as you know.
Right. Right.
So you've got to embrace the things you're good at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
It's no different than any other business or world where we all stand on the shoulders of the giants before us.
Right.
We have to, and whether or not that's the club members or whether it's the director of agronomy. So,
Right.
I think this is a good point to say, okay, who are the people you're standing on the shoulders of? You obviously your dad, the folks up in Iowa that you work for initially, but who else has been important to your career along the way for the other superintendents and your friends and people who've helped to guide you?
So Dr. Nick Christians, who's
Yeah,
retired now,
yeah,
has to be mentioned because he went to speak at a Iowa. My dad was president of the Association of the Tri-State, um, and took him back to the airport, and he asked what his son was doing, and he says, well, he's thinking about playing football, and he's up at Northern State, but all he's ever done is work on golf courses. And Nick went, what's his telephone number? And Nick forced me to go to Iowa State, like signed me up before I even showed up there.
He's a pretty insistent guy.
He's a legend. Like,
Yeah.
I remember talking to him going, I've never been there, never seen. He goes, no, I already signed you up for your classes. I'll see you. And thank God he did, right? And so that started that. And then
What was
I,
the tuition? What was the tuition then? It was like $800 a semester or something like that, or
I spent 2000 a semester.
2000. Okay. You're a little bit
That
younger than
was
me.
out of state.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
forgot. That's right.
Um, and so then from there, he looked at me. He's like, "You need to go. You need to go south. You just need an internship south." Okay. Well, you've done everything up here, Joe. I mean, you're okay. So I interned at Colonial Country Club because they were having a PGA Tour event,
Yep.
and Scott Johnson, who was the
Yeah.
superintendent here at the time, who is one of the most fabulous human beings
Yeah.
I've ever met, and I came down, interned with him, and then he kind of had an assistant role when I graduated that was second, third, something going on. Brought me back to Colonial. I worked another PGA event. And all of a sudden, he never left the club, but he was gone one day, and they said, "Oh, he's playing golf at a neighboring club over here." Okay. Saw him the next day, and he goes, "So I went to this place, River Crest Country Club. I played golf with Doug Fisher, who needs an assistant superintendent, and that's your job." I don't even know where he goes. It's 2 miles down the road. Okay. Doug called. I set up an interview, and we drove. And Doug Fisher's a great superintendent. He's in the Denver area right now.
Yeah.
Ended up leaving here and going to Denver Country Club.
Yeah.
And I remember driving around with him, and he stopped after like 8 holes. He goes, "Let's just cut to the chase. I've got like 3 guys lined up." Scott Johnson came over here and said, "You're the guy. This is your job if you want it." And I'm
Wow.
like, and here I am. So,
Wow. 27
I
years
mean, in the
ago.
grand scheme of things, I didn't even plan any of this.
No,
I mean,
this is not a great example of career planning.
agreed. It's not at
But
all.
you put yourself in the right place at the right time, and you understood, I think, the opportunities that were there. But yeah, between Nick Christian and guys like Doug, I mean, it's just amazing where those people will take you. And just quickly about Nick, I don't think anybody will understand the
Oh,
contributions that one guy from Iowa
right.
made to the entire industry.
They
And
never will.
no,
It's
not
huge.
anything. If you've ever been interested in the Turf Bowl, you should thank Nick Christians. If you've
Absolutely.
ever been interested in really good research that was being done to really help people in not a big state, there aren't that many golf courses in Iowa and South
No,
Dakota and North Dakota. You know,
right,
it's hundreds, not thousands,
right.
and yet they were served by a program which was first class.
Yeah. So, and the other thing about Nick is one of the greatest book. By the way, the staff when I went to Iowa State at that time, Mike Agnew,
Oh
Dr.
yeah,
Nick Christians,
yeah.
uh, our pathologist, Dr. Uh, geez, I worked for him. One unbelievable guy.
Mike Agnew, for those who don't know, went on to have a great career at Syngenta,
Yep.
and not too long ago retired and is still active in the industry, but another great contributor.
Well, in the book that everyone should have in their office, it's still valid today. It's called The Mathematics of Turfgrass Science, written by Dr. Nick Christians and Mike Agnew.
Cool,
And it is the mathematics book. I
cool.
mean, it still is. So, if anyone does mathematics anymore, but yeah, just
Well,
unbelievable.
AI does that for us now. We just have to just tell AI, do the math for me, AI.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
But who else is on that list of folks that sort of nudged you along and helped you and were co-conspirators?
So I got to mention another guy that was working as a PhD student for Dr. Nick, which you probably, I don't know if anyone knows Brian Unruh, Dr. Brian
I
Unruh at the University of Florida right now.
lots of people know Brian. Yeah,
He's
another
one of the
legend.
sharpest individuals. Like, he would talk to me. I was in the lab doing Nick stuff working, and he was microscopy, and I would look at him and go, I have no idea what you just said, Brian. Like, I don't think any human being can understand what you just said.
Yeah,
But another guy just but you know, I got to work, when I took the job here, Colonial hired Scott Evers over at
yeah,
Colonial, and we just became comrades. I would obviously go to Colonial and help him out anytime, and he has since retiring, he still comes out here and will drive the course with me.
that's
So
awesome.
cerebral. So I'm just going to take and put this in a nutshell. When I was young, I just went, this is, I've got to do this, and I've always been observant and whatever. But guys like Scott Ebers and Scott Johnson and Doug Fisher, I tell my guys now, when I come up on them, what are you doing? Well, I'm watering a green. Okay, are you? Is it dry? Well, and I just look at him. I go, you can do anything you need to do out here. It better have a purpose. So if anyone asks you what you're doing, it's for a purpose. And if it's for a purpose, then get it done for that purpose, and don't do anything that doesn't have a purpose.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's just, and those guys, the Scott Johnsons of the world, he would be on his hands and knees after fire ant bait goes out, and he's watching ants carry bait. And I would pull up on him and I would just be like, sir, what are we doing? He's like, look at this. Isn't this cool? Look at the workers picking up the bait. And, we're not just doing things,
yeah,
we're actually watching it happen. But
yeah. You make another valid point, another good lesson for younger folks out there who listen to this is inviting other superintendents to come ride your property is a hell of a good idea.
oh, we don't do enough of that anymore. It
Yeah,
saddens me. And I will tell you, it's one of the greatest joys of this job. As you know, Pat, I mean, you will come out and visit everyone. And I highly encourage anyone that knows you or doesn't know you to have you came out when we were doing our renovation and did these fireside chats with me, and you're a great speaker, and better than any of us, and help me just talk to people, sell the project, not really sell it, but it sells it. The purpose wasn't we're trying to sell it, but just having you talk, they were like, oh, we're doing something cool out here, and have them get proud of it.
well, it's the classic example of the guy from out of town with a briefcase is smarter than anybody who's worked here for 20 years, you know?
Absolutely.
And so, but yeah, I don't know about me, but I do know if you've got all this talent and generations of experience, why not ask them to come take a look and ride around the golf course, maybe play? But I think the Cushman tour is still the best way to get that kind
and
of
and,
mind meld.
and let's just think about this. I still want that today. I will entertain any of them. And if anyone calls me and says, Joe, I will show up. One, I'm going to learn something from anybody's property. I just am. I'm going to learn something from a 24-year-old or a 65-year-old.
Yeah.
But let's think of surgeons. Do surgeons have the pharmaceutical rep or whatever in the surgery room? Or do they have peer surgeons who observe what they do,
Yeah.
right? And then write them or sit down with them and write them a review of here's what I saw, here's
Yeah.
what I would have done. I mean, we
You,
should
you,
all want that.
you bring up a good point, and but at the same time, one of the things I'm fascinated by is how the profession is changing and the culture of superintendents is changing as this next generation is coming in and taking over leadership of America's greatest courses.
Right.
And a lot of times, one of the things we've seen is a lot fewer of them have 4-year degrees. Tyler Bloom and I did a study about this.
Saw it.
A lot fewer of them have 4-year degrees, and they're more focused on, and probably rightfully so, leadership, communications, team building, things like that. And they don't necessarily take the time to watch the fire ants move the bait around.
Right.
And that in some ways is progress, but in some ways it's not. I hope we find a happy medium between those two things as this generation moves forward. But that's where those salespeople come in.
Agreed.
That's where the trusted agronomic advisors, you have them, everybody
Yeah.
has that handful of people locally that you trust that are going to tell you the truth and not try to sell you some stuff that you don't need. That's where
And
it
and
becomes important.
and they've saved a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
They don't get the credit. They
Yeah.
probably are
Don't
not
mix
in
those
it for
two
the
things in
credit.
your tank mix, right?
Yeah. But hey, I've just witnessed, 4 clubs south of this state. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, great to absolutely. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean,
But there's nothing better than peers. You're right. I mean, it's
and we're
so
not
important.
doing it enough,
Yeah.
Pat. And it's Chris Rick, another guy that Chris Rick at Preston Trail.
Mhm.
If you don't know Preston Trail,
Pretty nice place.
yep, I played golf with him not too long ago last year, and within the first hole, Lee Trevino came up and told me, he's like, "Man, why are you trying to kill the fly instead of catch the fly?" And I'm like,
What?
my dad, by the way, my dad loved him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Chris looks at me smiling. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then the next president was tooling around by the second hole. Um, and rightfully so, because the job Chris does there, um, I don't know if he's been doing it as long as I have. I don't think so. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's the quality of superintendent, the quality of the conditioning. I'm just like, you've knocked it out of the park. Like, now, I'm just telling you, you've knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
And he continues to do that on a daily basis. And
Yeah.
look, it's one thing to have all the resources in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. It's another thing to be able to do that when you have them.
And to know how to use them. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Because you just can't magically do that. I don't care what they give you, right? You have to be good at and it's just we're so blessed with these quality young guys.
Yeah.
The Metroplex has got a ton of them.
What makes you crazy? You know, I don't think you've ever been we all need to work 100 days of hell and 100 hours a week. I don't
Never,
think that's ever been your culture there.
never.
But we do run into this thing these days of I have to have some balance between my work and my life. How have things changed with your team and maybe with other teams in the area trying to create that opportunity to have a bit more of a life and a bit less time at the club?
Yeah, and you and Tyler probably know more of this than I do. Um, I think those days are over.
Yeah,
Not everyone is operating, I don't believe, like they're over. And there are some people that love to work sun up to sundown and longer on a daily basis, including crew guys, right?
yeah, they love it. Yeah,
But there's not a lot of them left.
yeah,
There just isn't. So I've always been blessed to have good balance in my own life. Now I look at it as like all these guys that depend on me for their schedule, are they getting it? And we're doing it, but that's hard.
yeah.
Like me being gone, I'm like, I'm good. I've got a great assistant, Paul Watkins, and he's actually the superintendent here. But
Yep, I met him. Great guy.
and but when you start letting them get more and more of their personal time to build their lives, you're like, ooh, okay, how do we
Yeah,
operate a little short? And how do
yeah,
we get good at that? And I think we're doing it, but the industry, like these guys, I don't know what you're finding in the assistant superintendent pool, but there's a shortage, in my opinion. And it's because when they hear you've got no holidays for your family, no weekends, or maybe you'll get a Sunday here and right, they're
yeah,
like, I've got other options.
yeah, for sure. For
Eh,
sure. That was the number one thing that came out of that study was if you want me to leave, don't give me any flexibility with my schedule.
right.
And, and,
And
and
I'll be gone. Yeah.
yeah, right. And that's going to force me out. And if you want me to stay, then create a culture where the assistants, the key middle management people can kind of build a schedule that works for them. And with your blessing, with the
Yeah.
superintendent or director of grounds blessing, but to have them work that out about who's going to work the weekend, and make sure that nobody's working every single weekend for months at
Yeah.
a time to have that collaboration, but it also empowers them.
Yes. And by the way, it can be done and morale improves.
Yeah. Yes.
And then the energy and excitement level kind of improves and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got a guy that's had his time and he's recharged and we're all going to benefit from that.
Yeah. How often do you get home and go hunting?
So my mother is here and she's got Alzheimer's and
Oh, that's right.
uh I did every year go up to see my best friend Scott Hansen, and a lot of superintendents from here have been to my hometown in Elk Point,
Yeah.
South Dakota,
Right.
at his hunting lodge, and
Yeah.
it's really cool. And they're always like, "We understand you now, Livingston." And I'm like, "Well, kind of, but
You grew up shooting birds.
yeah." And it's just all, I mean, just the greatest people, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, you're from the Midwest, and so
You don't
I'm in a
you don't
different
remember we're
season.
fellow South Dakotans. I was born in Sioux Falls.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Why
I was
have
born
I
in Sioux Falls.
forgotten that?
I don't know. It's dumb. But,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I still love that state, and you know, I'm in a different season right now. I'm taking care of some things, and I'm blessed
yeah.
to be able to do that. And she's a great lady, and so
But there's lots of folks just like you who are that have reached a point where they're caregivers, and
yeah,
you've got to find a way to make sure that you've got your priorities right, and you do.
right, yeah.
But you should
Well,
go hunting anyway.
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I just think, thank God we did the renovation before COVID,
Yeah,
or else we wouldn't have survived the amount of play.
yeah,
I think we're riding this peaks and valleys of golf business. I think we're on the peaks right now, and we have been for years.
yeah,
The valleys are coming.
yeah, for sure.
You know that.
It's inevitable.
But everyone's
Booms
spending,
always bust.
I mean, everyone around us is renovating or has renovated. And I think we're set up well for the future.
Yeah,
Um, but the valleys, I mean, golf's booming right now. Like, I don't think we've ever seen. Have you seen those numbers?
no, this is the best economy I've ever seen. I think it's the best economy in golf history. You can look at the early '90s. Talking
Tiger.
about when you got involved, and part of it was Tiger, and part of it was real estate, right? It was
Okay.
Toll Brothers and WCI and Wayne Huizenga and all these people building golf courses as amenities. And oftentimes, those amenity golf courses that were built in the '80s and '90s were not built well. They
Right.
were not taken care of. The infrastructure was sadly underserved. And a lot of times they've been victims of deferred maintenance. So
Yeah.
so we don't have that this time. What we have is people who are crazy about golf. They just
Right.
want to go play and they want to be members of clubs because they want to be around other people who will like that. So it's gone from being a real estate boom to being a boom and joy
Yeah.
about playing golf. So that's one thing that makes me optimistic about the future, but we'll find a way to screw this up. We always
Yeah.
do, you know,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be money. There's going to be aspects of what's going to happen in the next 5 years that are going to lead to golf being priced out of the range of a lot of people's affordability, but we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see how
We're
that
riding a
all
wave.
evolves.
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic that we won't screw it up right away.
Yeah.
So, well, so what do you want to tell people? What do you, so, you and I have known a lot, people, we know each other for a long time, and you've never hesitated to tell me what you think. What do you think about your future and what you hope to still accomplish? And what do you think about the future of golf there in Fort Worth, Texas?
Um, as far as my personal goals and future, you know, I'm I'm trying to do the best I can every day. And that sounds like cliche, but when you've been somewhere over going on 3 decades, I mean, trying to do the best you can is a self motivational internal push that just doesn't happen every day. Um, unless you concentrate on, like, am I doing what I would do if I showed up here in year number one? And that has to come from yourself. And my advice to anyone would be, I'm not perfect at it at all. I have my down days and my middle of the road days, and I have very good days. But that's life. Let's quit being hard on ourselves. You have them too, Pat, and so
Yeah,
does everyone else
yeah,
going to work. So, I've done all this without social media, as you know.
yeah.
You knew when I was on social media, and it frankly
It wasn't good.
takes a brain of mine and just scrambles it into oblivion.
No, you made the right choice.
But my advice then would be this. I have no problem with using all the tools that are out there. I'm not good at it. I don't do it. But I will say this, I'm visible, I'm accessible, and I answer the phone regardless of how difficult it's going to be. And it has made these conversations far less difficult
Yeah.
just answering the phone and calling back and just getting on top of it. Part of me says a lot of that is still better than Twitter. Am I wrong?
No, no, you're 100% right.
Okay. So I was in Dallas yesterday for a consultant group, insight group, had a superintendent and a GM talking to a bunch of CMA guys, a bunch of
Yep.
GMs in the room. And there were a few of us, Dan Burkett, Willie Wall, a lot of great superintendents actually went with their GMs. And it, I'm not going to, rightfully or wrongfully, they had some good points about sharing your foliar nutrition samples and soil samples. And you know me, I started looking down and just like, and my assistant GM was like, are you going to say, and I said, I'm going to say something. I can't help it. And uh, there were some valid points. And if her name was Jessica, who was sitting next to me, I looked at her and said, if you want any of that information, I'll be happy to sit down with you. But we're in the weeds here.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't teach anyone agronomy in 30-minute lunches any quicker. Like, we've lived as superintendents, we've lived our life learning this stuff. I
Yeah.
can't learn what Pat Jones does in 30 minutes, nor can I learn how to perform heart surgery. And why would anyone want to hear that?
Nor is it necessarily appropriate for them to have that level of information. You don't drag them into the weeds.
And so my advice was, I threw every superintendent sitting there under the bus. I'm like, you've got lifelong guys that are sitting in this room, great at what they do. And not one of my tissue samples that are typically, by the grace of God, outstanding, I get them every week. None of that matters to you or my customer when that tissue sample shows numbers you don't even understand. And you walk out on my golf course and it's playing like crap, or the green doesn't look right. And I'll be like, tissue set. I go, I just take it for what it's worth. I don't know that that is the most important thing we need to be sharing. Our product speaks for itself.
There you go.
You'll know when we're not doing our jobs, and there are things we have no control over, and we should get some grace from that.
Yeah.
But visibility, accessibility, and communication. And Dan Burkett, I'm gonna give him credit. He speaks up and he says, you know, all I can tell you GMs, because he's been on both sides of it, he's been a GM, is I'll quote Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get hit in the nose. Right?
Yes.
And
yes.
we get hit in the nose consistently. Can you adapt?
Yeah. How do you handle it?
And can you just, you know, the superintendent here, Paul Watkins, you've met him.
Yeah.
You can't knock him off his center. It's one of the beautiful things. You can still probably knock Joe Livingston off his center and get him rattled here. But he's the opposite of me. And it's one of the beautiful things of our little dynamic here.
Yeah.
That's the attitude.
Right.
I've got my, we need to be as rooted as our turf, you know?
Bingo. Bingo. I'm going to let that be the last word because that's exactly right. And I will remind everyone, if you get into a board meeting and it's going the wrong way, never forget the most valuable words in the entire English language. We're not that kind of club. Thanks, Joe. It was awesome. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this. You passed the TurfZoom test, and I hope your buddies down there give you a lot of crap about being on here.
They will. Thank you. Good to see you.
Much love. Have a great day.
Yep. God bless.
Bye. And stay tuned. We'll be back with more TurfZooms for you pretty soon.